Hi there everybody and welcome back to another video. This video is going to be a bit different from my other videos. Nearly all my other black and white editing tutorials were of seascapes or landscapes, and now I'm going to try something different. We're going to try some street photography in Hungary, Budapest, where we went for a few days as a holiday. And I said, I might as well, you know, try some street photography since I'll be there. The image we'll be editing was taken in a train station. I just popped in to have a look, and I liked the leading lines of the railway tracks. We'll be editing it from color to black and white, and I'll show you my easy process. And I'm sure it's one of the best processing methods you can use from turning color into black and white. I've taken some other images up here and here, and I hope you like them, and I hope you stick along with me till the end of the video. Well, we're back in the studio, guys. This is the raw file. It was taken with my Fujifilm X-T4, and I took it handheld. We're in Adobe Camera Raw. If you want, you can use Lightroom. They're just the same. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to crop the image and straighten it out a bit here. Go down to the crop tool. I'm going to crop the image from the bottom, somewhere there. Now I'm going to straighten the image, as this beam here is not straight and the pillars are not straight either. I'm going to go down to this guided line thing. I'm going to place one on the pillar here, and I'm going to place another one over here. I'm going to place another one here so we get the beam straight. And that should be okay. It's a raw file, like I said, and it's in color. I'm going to play with these exposure. With the exposure panel, I'm going to reduce the highlights. Increase the shadows. Going to increase the whites till I see clippings, and the blacks also until I see clippings on the histogram. I'm going to give it a bit of contrast. And the exposure, I think I'll leave it how it is. Next, I'm going to use the profile, Adobe Landscape. I always give my images that bright color, saturation. I increase before turning it into black and white. I use the calibration for this, and I use the blue primary and raise it more than halfway, about 3/4 of the way. Next, I'm going to use the effects panel, give it some texture, some clarity, and a bit of dehaze. I'm already picturing in my mind what I'm going to do to this image when I'm turned it over to black and white. And don't forget, I'll be showing you one of the best techniques you can use, the best methods from turning your images to black and white. I don't use the black and white button up here. I go over to Photoshop. And it's a very easy process. And once you get the hang of it, you're going to stick with it and forget about the other methods of turning it into black and white from color. I'm going to go down to the detail panel, increase
the sharpening. I always reduce the radius and increase the detail and hold down the masking with my Alt key on a Windows. Press down the Alt key and keep going up. I usually go to around 70 and I'll just be sharpening the white parts of the image. I'm going to go down to the color tab here. As I said before, I do not touch the vibration, the vibrance and the saturation. And from here I'm going to go over to Photoshop. I'm going to open it up. We're in Photoshop. Now I'm going to show you the method that I use to turn it to black and white. This is all for you new viewers. Go down to the half circle, click on black and white, and it's turned to black and white. You're going to say, oh, is that all? But no, we're going to go a bit further. You can play around with these if you want, but I usually just leave them how they are. I close this panel and I go back down to the adjustments layer and I click on the gradient map. It's a bit dark here, so all you need to do is click on this drop down window and click on classic. If you see it's still a bit dark, too many blacks, just click on this gradient map here. I had a comment before that the viewer who watched one of my videos, his gradient map was the opposite. The whites were on the left and the blacks were on the right. All you need to do for that is just click on it. It's going to open another window and just swap these round. The blacks on the right side or the whites on the left side. This is how they should be, but if yours is different, just swap these over and it will come how it is now, how it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to increase the whites. I'm going to move this slider here and you can see the whites increasing once you release the mouse button. A bit more, a bit more, and that should be okay. Press OK, close this one, and there we have a much better, believe me, much better black and white image. Close these by going to these three lines and just flatten the image. Now we'll go back to, if you're using Lightroom, go back to Lightroom, and I'm going to go back to Adobe Camera Raw. We're back in Adobe Camera Raw. And now I'm going to play around with these exposure panel again. You can leave it how you want, but I just like to give it a final adjustments. Should be okay. I'll leave that how they are. And I think they should be okay. And now comes the fun part of using masking, which is going to transform your image into a much better picture. Go over to the masking tools, and now I'm going to use the linear gradient. I'm not going to touch the top part with the linear gradient, just the part to about there. Reduce the exposure. Should be okay somewhere there. And next I'm gonna use another, and I'm gonna use the brush. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go paint over here. I'm going to increase the exposure, paint in the middle here, and these lines also. As you can see, they are leading lines, which I said in my introduction, and I'm going to give them a bit more life. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to reduce the brush size, and I'm going to paint over this path here, or I don't know what they call them for the railway tracks. I think they're wooden planks. And here I'm going to increase the exposure, say. Should be okay. I'm going to use another brush, and I'm going to do this side also. I'm going to increase the brush just a bit. And just paint there. If you think you've gone a bit too far, you want to reduce, just go on the subtract up here. Select brush, and you have a minus brush where it's going to remove where you don't want the mask to be. And I just wanted it in the middle. And now I'm going to increase the exposure. Should be okay. I'm going to do the same for these two lines here. This one I'll leave it how it is, and I'm going to do these two lines here. I think they were white and yellow and red. I think I'm going to use another brush. You can zoom in if you want, but for the sake of the video, for not taking too long, I'm just going to show you quickly. Something like that. Leave it how it is. And for here I'm going to use the subtract brush as well. You can do it more accurate, like I said, if you zoom in. And here I'm going to give it some contrast. I'm going to reduce the exposure. Should be okay. And next I'm going to do this line, and this one I'm going to increase the exposure. So I'm going to use another brush, make it smaller, increase it as I come nearer. I'm going to use the minus brush for this bit here. And I'm going to increase the exposure. To about there. Should be okay for the bottom part of the image. I'm going to click on the eyeball here to see the before and after of the masks. That's the before, and that's the after. Gives you a much more better leading line. And now I'm going to lighten these pillars up also. And now I'm going to use something different. I don't think I've shown you this before. I'm going to use the luminance range. And here I'm going to click on the pillars here, or this wall, with the eyedropper, and it's going to give me the same, where I have the same color, it's going to mask nearly all of the image. But I just want to brighten up these pillars, this wall here. So I'm going to use the subtract brush, and I'm going to remove where I don't want the mask to be. There's another way to do this, but I found this way is much easier. And much quicker. You have to be careful with the luminance masking, because if you go too far you get this weird look on your image. And now I have just the pillars and this building on the right side where I want to increase. As you can see, the blacks are not touched, and I just increase the brightness, exposure, where the brighter parts is. I'll show you. Don't go too far. Just give it that natural look. Something like that. I'm going to use another luminance range mask, and I'm going to do the same for here. Click on the eyedropper, and we have the same thing like I said before, but I just want the train. So a bit of patience, use the brush, increase it if you need, and remove where you don't want the mask. You don't have to be exactly accurate, because I'm using a feathering of 100. And now I'm going to increase the exposure as well. And that should be okay. We're soon ready. I'm going to use a radio now, and I'm going to place it over this part here that's leading your eye to the center of the image. I'm going to open it up a bit, like that, and here I'm going to increase just a bit of exposure, like that, and I'm going to use minus dehaze. Like that. Should be okay. I didn't mention before, in the distance there was fog over the track here, and you're just like enhancing it a bit. I'm going to use another radial gradient, and I'm going to place it over the first one, and I'm going to do a vignette. I'm going to invert the vignette, and I'm going to reduce the exposure. Let me check it. Just a bit more. And that should be okay. I'm going to step out of the masking, go back in, and I'm going to click on the eyeball to see the before and after mask. So that was before, and that was after. And like that we have a perfect black and white image. You can continue for the top part here if you want to make it darker or lighter. Now I'm going to show you the before and after, before we've done any adjustments or editing to the image, by pressing P on the keyboard for preview. So that's the before and that's the after. Before and after. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and thanks for watching. Check out my other videos on black and white editing, and I hope you enjoyed the video. See you and thank you.